I want to issue a national, if not international, warning to our Israeli friends, to the people in Israel, to the leadership in Israel, to the Israelis that love their country and love their history. I am warning you right now that Joe Biden is betraying you. I'm warning you right now that Antony Blinken is betraying you. I am warning you right now that the American Democrat Party is betraying you. I am warning you right now that the American media are betraying you. And oddly enough, they have more negative, hostile things to say about the state of Israel and how they're trying to defend themselves than the Islamonazi regime in Iran. I am telling you now that Israeli leaders, I don't care what party, I don't care who they are, have got to stop praising Joe Biden. Not for political reasons, here or there, but because they are only motivating him and his radical administration to continue to put pressure behind the scenes and now in front of the scenes on that country like no other country has to face. All of this is predictable. Just look at my tweets for the last month or listen to my broadcast for the last month. A 4-day ceasefire is not going to be a 5-day, 6-day, 7-day, whatever it takes. Fuel is pouring into the Gaza Strip. Fuel. So much for climate change. Nonetheless, fuel is pouring in. All kinds of benefits. That's right, medicine and food are pouring into Gaza. Rather than support the Israelis and say, do what you have to do and get this over with as quickly as you can, it's being dragged out. Because Biden does not want Israel to win. Blinken does not want Israel to win. Blinken, while you were sitting at the table with your turkey and other family members on the left, Blinken was conducting his diplomacy. He was pressuring Arab states to pressure Israel for a two-state solution. He's pressuring European states, the EU, to pressure Israel for a two-state solution. While at the same time, they are crippling Israel's ability to destroy their enemy. It seems like October 7th was so far away, does it not? So far away. And now we have the photos of hostages being released, little kids, elderly people, family reunions, that is, families that weren't slaughtered. And of course it's heart-wrenching. And of course we're happy to see it. But this isn't Hamas, this is Iran. Iran behind the scenes, they know what to do with hostages. They had us on a hook for 444 days until Reagan got elected. They got Obama to pay them billions. They got Biden to pay them billions. The stupid media in America is asking Kirby and others, how come no Americans have been released but this 4-year-old girl? The answer is simple. They're playing Biden and Blinken like a fiddle. Oh, they'll let an American out here and there, but their goal is to let the Americans out, if not last, near last. Why? Because they have Biden pressuring Israel to allow Hamas to rearm, to reposition their terrorists. And they're hoping enough time will die out where people like Cindy McCain will be speaking out about the famine that's developing in Gaza. Here's the problem. Excuse me. Most people know very little about wars that America has actually won. We had heroes, great heroes who fought in Afghanistan. Great heroes who fought in Iraq. Great heroes, many who fought in Vietnam. Great heroes who fought in Korea. But in each one of those wars and others, the politicians pulled back. They didn't want a victory. Even in Vietnam, that went on forever with an enormous amount of deaths and casualties. Same with Korea. In the end, they didn't want an ultimate victory. We haven't had an ultimate victory, a sizable ultimate victory, really, if memory serves, since World War II. So most people today in America, certainly young people, are used to wars that have no actual definitive outcome or wars that we actually lose. And they expect the same of the Israelis. And so they don't know the consequences of war. That wars have to be won. They have to be carried through to the end. Particularly when the enemy, the Muslim Brotherhood and all of its offspring, and the Islamonazi regime in Tehran say they're not going to stop under any circumstances. And so they play the West, which has a completely different mentality. And they play Biden, who has no mentality. And they take hostages, which is a war crime. They murder babies, a war crime. They rape women, a war crime. They use butchery to destroy the bodies of individuals in order to defy their faith. A war crime. And so here and there, we'll give them 10 hostages back, and we'll give them 10 here, and the cameras will be there, the West will be there, and we'll delay this longer and longer and longer and longer. We'll get more and more fuel. We'll get the world to turn on the Israelis. Now the Israelis are the oppressors. Now the Israelis are the militaristic state. And if it wasn't for Netanyahu, boy, we could get him and his right-wing government out of there. Then we'd have peace in our time. And while we're at it, in the middle of the war, we want this two-state solution. So they're blackmailing Israel. They're threatening Israel. We've sent our 2 carrier fleets over there. We've sent a nuclear sub over there. They haven't done a damn thing pretty much so far. Certainly the nuclear sub has no purpose. We don't even use them to defend our own soldiers. We're not going to use them to defend Israelis. We don't even use them to defend Americans. But Joe Biden's showing strength, don't you know? And he's allowing the Israelis to continue to purchase weapons from us. I know of no president since the founding of the State of Israel who has refused to provide Israel with weapons except Barack Obama for a period of time. Biden's not doing anything extraordinary. Biden publicly says he wants this ceasefire to go on longer. And so there you are. 3-card Monty right there. 3-4 days. 5-6 days. A week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Same with nukes. Iran will not get a nuke, says the United States. Iran will not get a nuke, says the UN. Iran will not get a nuke, says the EU. Even says Israel. But Iran's getting a nuke right now as I speak. And what's anybody going to do about it? Does that make you nervous, America? when they have ICBMs that can reach our country and threaten us? Israel is being betrayed as America is being betrayed. Joe Biden has betrayed our own country. He will not secure the border, and the last thing I read over the weekend was they're going to blame Trump for an open border. And they'll have the media behind them, they'll have the billionaires behind them, because they lie. That's all they know to do. They lie. They're not going to run on Biden's record. They're going to lie about his record and lie about Trump. And I'll get to that in a minute. Joe Scarborough and Claire McCaskill. They're not going to escape my response to what they said last week. Absolutely sickening about Donald Trump. Joe Biden rearmed Iran. If he hadn't done that, Israel wouldn't be in this situation. If he hadn't done that, these atrocities wouldn't have occurred. The radical left in Israel has been trying to topple Netanyahu for 2 years. They've tried to create a civil war. They told their military, their pilots, Mossad, don't take orders from Netanyahu. He's illegitimate. We're going to send him to prison. He's a radical. Thomas Friedman, here in the pages of the New York Times, never friendly to the Jews. Certainly not the Israelis. Never. They take no responsibility, none. I've been reading about the Roman Empire. There's no 100% parallel, of course. The Roman Empire fell for a lot of reasons, but in part, internal disputes and internal fighting. Isn't that always the way? That's how the Second Temple fell to the Romans. When the Jews broke up into factions and were fighting, killing each other, while the Romans were laying siege to the Second Temple. And the Romans were fighting with each other. Their enemies, particularly today, what we would call the Germans, but also the barbarians, they were organizing against them. In fact, the Romans let many of the barbarians into their country under pressure. Not political pressure, but they were on the border in huge numbers, so they decided to let some in. A lot in. Big mistake. Sound familiar? They lost their border. And yet the Roman Empire lasted 1,000 years when you include the Republic and the Empire. America's around 250 years old. The border wide open. The Democrat Party at war with our own country. But I'm warning the Israelis tonight. You're being betrayed. You're being betrayed by an individual who doesn't care about his own people, let alone your people. That's why our border's open, and that's why he doesn't take hard steps to defend our soldiers in that region.